with appreciation and gratitude for the clarity of thought.
Let's just say appreciation, because you know what? Gratitude's laced with a little resistance.
Okay.
Do you feel the difference? Just for a moment?
Actually, I did.
You didn't?
I didn't.
We're not trying to talk you into or out of anything. But usually when you're talking about gratitude, you're feeling grateful for the trouble that you've overcome, which means you've got the trouble activated. When you are appreciating, it's usually resistance free. Most people use the words interchangeably just because most people are not really thinking as much about vibration as they are about words. We're glad you are appreciating, and we're glad that you've overcome things that you're grateful about too, but we're more glad that you're appreciating.
I am appreciative of you, your teachings, the clarity that's come through your teachings.
Like just now. That's a leading edge thought worth thinking about. Yeah.
It's been years that I've been listening and learning, and it's certainly been a slow process sometimes of momentum, and there have been
a slow process, or it's been an unfolding process.
Unfolding.
That word feels a little better, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. We're just guiding you toward more satisfying words. And if you're sensitive to the words that you're offering and to what they really mean, then you'll clean up your vibration in no time. See what we're getting at?
Well, and I guess that's what I'd like to talk
We are
about.
nitpicking.
That's all right, pick away. As that cleaning up of vibration.
Or
Or
just meditate, and that cleans it all up. Quiet your mind. And then the next day there's less of that, and then the next day there's less of that. Less resistance every day.
Recently. Previously, I would say I'd wake up in the morning and it would be, oh God, it's another day. And it wasn't with the intent of having a good day.
Yeah.
And I would walk into another bad day, or another day.
Another expected day. Another day that I vibrationally prepared myself to walk into. Another day that was just as I expected it to be, because a belief is just a thought that you continue to think. But when you cease thinking those thoughts, here's a way of looking at it. Pretend just for a moment, just briefly, just to make the point, that you're standing and walking forward, and with every breath out you spew a sort of inky red mist out there that clouds your view, that kind of messes up the day. You just keep spewing it and walking into it, and spewing it and walking into it, and spewing it and walking into it. But if you stopped spewing it, it might be there for a day or two, but after a while it wouldn't be there, and you're the only one that can spew the inky red mist for yourself. No one else is. It feels like they're all doing it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop spewing inky red mist in my experience.
I was pretty good at it.
Most are, because most are observing. Most are observing the very delicious contrast that gave birth to the new, but they keep focusing on what hasn't happened yet, which is what causes them to spew the dissatisfying red mist, the unsatisfying red mist, the sucky red mist.
So when I had a day where I didn't spew the red mist, it actually was a great day.
And really was beginning the momentum for more of them. But you're such an objective human, weighing the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses. You want to be accurate, yes? No. Don't keep active the things that are in your way.
So I have a question for you.
That was good. That was all really good. Yeah.
So many years ago, before I was aware of the power of thought and what thought can do to direct things in your life, I took a course, and the course was called Life Work Planning. And in that course, one of the things we had to do was draw a timeline. So my timeline started at a beautiful level place, and then went into this rut. And then eventually comes back up, but I feel like I've lived this
Tell
rut.
us more about the timeline. Was it your timeline?
My
was
timeline.
It your assessment of your life experience?
Before you could know anything about it, you had just said, draw a timeline. This is what you think your life is going to look like.
Oh, you think it's what it's going to look like. So tell us again how it looked. Be gentle with us.
Really nice. Good place.
Yeah.
And then abruptly fell off into a rather big gully and a rut.
And then what?
I feel like I've been in the rut.
That's as far as it went?
No, eventually it comes back up.
Oh, good.
Gets
That's
to a
good.
higher place.
This sounds like the making of a really good movie. In fact, this sounds like the making of every movie.
I'm
You're
hoping.
feeling pretty good. You go in the movie, they take you to the depths of despair. Then they bring you almost back to where you were when you went in, and you say, oh, I've had a life-changing experience.
Actually, on the other end, it brings you to higher than where you were when you went in.
That's the way you intended it to be. You come into this experience with high anticipation, but not much data of what you're going to do with the energy. So you begin your collecting of data process, and you do such a wonderful job of putting things into your vortex, of fashioning your own vortex. We really don't even need to talk about all of that. Let's just say you got here, you lived life, you made a vortex, and you don't know that it's there, and now you do. So now you want to focus in a way that all the good stuff that you've been asking for can begin to flow into your experience. It really is that simple. How do I do that? By being satisfied now. So I want this specific thing, Abraham. I want this specific thing that hasn't happened yet. So I accept that the creation is already done, and that my inner being has already attracted all of the cooperative components to it, and it is in the process of becoming. But I'm having a hard time, Abraham, listening to you here today. I'm having a hard time feeling satisfied about this thing that I want so much that hasn't happened. Having a hard time feeling satisfaction about that. We say, that's fine, then don't think about that. Don't I need to think about that in order to make it come? No. In fact, thinking about something that hasn't come keeps it from coming. Find satisfaction about other things. And as you maintain the satisfaction mode, the receiving mode, then impulses about that and other things will come to you. You could have 10 major things of interest and importance going on in your life. You've heard this from us before, we know. And one of them could be really not working at all. And 9 of them could be really working well. And you could focus upon the one that isn't working and use that as your reason for dissatisfaction and block your impulses relative to all the things that have been going well. Or you could do it the other way around. You could have only one thing going well and all the others not, and you could find the satisfaction in the one thing that is going well, so that you're using that as your reason for satisfaction, and before you know it, you'd be so much in the receiving mode that every one of those other issues or experiences or situations would begin turning to impulses and experiences and thoughts that would be pleasing to you. You hear that? Satisfaction?
Part of the appreciation at this moment comes from a different understanding, maybe correcting my misunderstanding of what I thought the vortex was.
Let's talk about it.
So what I thought when I listened to the vortex is this spinning disc, gathering all the creative components, my misunderstanding was that of being like a spin art disc, where you put some paint on it, it splatters out. And nothing seemed to be coming together.
Maybe things spin out and maybe things spin in. But the reason that your planet stays in its orbit the way it does is because it spins in.
That was my
Your planet is not spin art. Otherwise you'd all be splattered. This is law of attraction. It's law of inclusion. And the cooperative components are all being gathered and modulated and molded and refined and becoming. In other words, everything is like that. Everything that you see manifested is a vibration that has come into being. And what happens with so many humans is you were born into an environment where there was so much that was stable and positive to observe. And that's a good thing, until you begin to observe the things that feel unstable and not positive. And so we want you, now that you have the ability to do that, and now that you've built such a magnificent vortex, it's really time to put more emphasis on getting into step 3, which is the receiving mode, and allowing yourself to be in on the hands-on creating. It's such a wonderful thing to be in a state of receiving and just feel an impulse to do something that might even be illogical, but it feels so good that you want to do it. So you leave the house and you move in the direction of that idea, and then something wonderful comes about. Sometimes you're a cooperative component for someone else, but all of that is delicious too.
As I become more conscious of my thought and the power of that thought, I want to be where you are in that receiving of the goodness that's queued up, because in that period of being in the gully, in the gut, there's been plenty of receiving of the gully and the gut.
That's because we appreciate you saying that. You're always under the influence of something, but you want to tune yourself to be under the influence of who you really are, not of what you're moving from. Just stay there for just a minute and feel that, because if you are awake and your mind is active, law of attraction is responding to your thoughts. So you've got some mix of vibrations going on, which means your point of attraction is whatever it is. And so if you're focused upon the missing of something that you want, or the presence of something that you don't want, then that's in your mix. And if that's in your mix, then you're blocking what you do want in the same moment. Does that make sense to you? It's like you can't set your radio dial on 101 and receive what's being broadcast on another. Esther likes pulse and blend on XM radio. She likes the music, but she has to tune her tuner to receive what she believes is there.
So I believe it's there, and I am open to receiving, and it feels good to feel that way. And it's the first time in a long time that it feels good to actually feel that way.
But can you feel? You see, we've been talking to all of you for a while, and you've been receiving us. You're watching YouTube, and you're receiving things from one another, and you have a sense of all of this. We know that you do. We can feel that you do have a basis of understanding. But today, we want you to simplify it all for yourself. We want to ask you, do you accept that there is a vibrational reality that precedes the manifestation?
Yes.
And do you accept that you've been under the influence and you've projected it? In other words, if you've been under the influence of not believing in yourself, or being angry at the world, or angry at someone, then you've spread some red mist out there that you're going to keep running into. But you don't have to keep doing that. But you've also created this magnificent vortex that's queued up and ready for you to receive it. So if you can accept that you are more than this physical body, and that the more part of you is in on this with you, and is pure positive energy, and is attracting the cooperative components, and that you may be the last holdout of the cooperative components of your own creation, and that the better you feel and the more you intentionally feel satisfaction, don't just give lip service to it, don't just smile and pretend it, really reach for, why is this a satisfying moment? What is it about this moment that is satisfying? And when you begin to find deep satisfaction just in a quieted mind, that's when you'll really begin to feel the resonance of this vibration of well-being that is you. You can feel. Do you meditate? Do you know that feeling of sort of detachment, that once your mind is quieted and you have a sort of state of numbness? Esther can't tell her nose from her toe. It feels satisfying. It feels satisfying.
I've done that. Not on a regular basis, and maybe that's what I need to practice doing more, is just quieting down.
Here it is, plainly and simply. If you are not deliberately tending to your vibrational relationship with your vortex and your inner being, if you're not deliberately allowing your vibration to rise so that you are in the vibrational vicinity of what your inner being is projecting, if you're not deliberately doing that,